Welcome viewers to the series Exploring Careers in Conflict Transformation. My name is Quinn Pigeon. I'm the class of 2024 at Middlebury College, and I would like to introduce this episode's guest speaker. I'm joined today by Shaz DeYoung, researcher, learning and evidence with Alliance for Peacebuilding. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I'm really excited and happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little about Alliance for Peacebuilding and the work you do as it fits into this career space?
I am a learning and evidence researcher with the Alliance for Peacebuilding. The Alliance for Peacebuilding, we are a network organization. We have right now 170 plus members that span across 80 plus countries that work globally to prevent violent conflict. So that's a little bit about the Alliance for Peacebuilding. We have three main technical capacities or expertise that we offer as an organization. So one is our memberships and convening space, which it's in the name, we're a network organization. Then we have our policy and advocacy space where we advocate for groundbreaking laws and policies as it pertains to conflict and peace building. And then we have the learning and evidence team, which is my team, and we focus on research efforts for evidence collection, evidence generation, knowledge synthesis, and anything that stimulates learning, adaptation, and growth within the peacebuilding field. So that's a little bit about the Alliance for Peacebuilding.
In terms of like technologies that you're using, are there any specific technologies and how are they involved? How do you use them?
So sometimes we use the software R. So R Studio is what I use. My colleagues use SPSS or Stata. I was trained in ArcGIS, but that requires a substantial subscription amount if you want to continue using it. And so there's more open software available now. So QGIS is something I have used that's more specific for GIS. On the creative side, we do use the entire Adobe suite. So I work in Premiere Pro, I work in After Effects, I work in Illustrator, Photoshop. We do all of our reports in InDesign. And then when we don't feel like doing InDesign, we do Canva too sometimes. So it's pretty versatile. For the learning and evidence team, we do a lot of data collection too and survey tool creation. So there are a few technologies that software there. So JotForm is one, SurveyMonkey is another, and we're constantly exploring new ways to collect data, more innovative tools. Kumu is also a tool that we use that's really fun to use. You can do a lot of link analysis and even social network analysis with it, and it's an open platform.
In terms of like a typical day on the job, what is that like? And can you talk a little bit about what is most challenging for your job and what is most interesting?
I can give you a brief glimpse into, being on the learning and evidence team, and that's more research focused. That's more data collection, analysis, survey creation, those kinds of skills and to-do tasks essentially. So it depends on what kind of grants we have at that point in time and what the demands for those grants are. Our grants are very project driven, so they have a very specific research focus. And it ranges anywhere from creation of a data collection tool to data collection, the analysis, report making. There is also a little bit of fundraising. So you contribute to the process of applying for proposals, applying for funding, proposal creation. And with the Alliance for Peacebuilding, one big part of everyone's portfolio, irrespective of which team you're on, is PeaceCon, which is our annual conference. So there's a clump of 3 to 5 months that the whole team sort of comes together then. And that's a substantial part of everyone's time, almost half a week to the entire week, depending on which team you are, that we all put out the request for proposals, talk about what we want to do with PeaceCon that year, where we want to host it, what are the key themes we're hearing in the field, and then, start event planning essentially and host a successful PeaceCon.
Are there other organizations that do similar work?
Yeah, so the Alliance for Peacebuilding just everything that we do, it's pretty unique. Um, we have other member organizations that are network organizations themselves, but what we do in terms of a network organization, along with the policy and advocacy aspect and the learning and evidence research team, it is a very unique fit of different capacities all within the same organization. So in that sense, it's unique, but there are elements of what we do that other organizations do. So you do have research organizations, of course. You do have other network organizations that focus on other aspects of the peace building field. So for example, there's Interaction, that is also another network organization that has similar work to us, but not entirely one for one the same. We do interact more frequently with our member organizations, but we're always looking for new ways to interact with those who aren't as part of our network as well, and to expand the network, through that process as well.
I'm curious about your own experience from campus to career. I know you have a master's in international policy and development from the Middlebury Institute for International Studies at Monterey. Can you tell me a little about the rest of your story?
Sure. I started training as a chartered accountant. So I grew up in India. I was born and raised in India. And so we have a chartered accountancy, which is similar to what you call a CPA around here. So I dedicated 5 years of my life training to be an accountant. And I realized that's not something I wanted to do. I was looking for something very different from that. And I found MIST, so the Middlebury Institute. I applied over there for the International Policy and Development Program. I got in and I left. So at the Middlebury Institute, within the International Policy Program, at least the way it was structured, you had different tracks. I focused on a specialization for design, monitoring, and evaluation, since my love for numbers still stayed. It just wasn't in the chartered accountancy route. And I also really fell in love with the theory behind peace building and conflict resolution and mediation, dialogue. And so I was trying to find a way to do both at the same time, because I really loved both those tracks. And that's how I came into being, wherein focusing on evaluation and research and measurement within peace building and conflict resolution. And after I graduated, I moved to DC, and my first job in DC was to track and collect and build a database of all the different forms of measurement that exist in the peace building field. And so that was perfectly catered to that niche specialization that I was going for. And then the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah, I knew accounting could get you so far. So, you mentioned all those technologies earlier, like Adobe, RStudio. I know like computer science majors might be surprised that their skills might be applicable to, the realm of conflict transformation. Can you talk a little bit about how you acquired those skills? And, it sounds like they're pretty important in what you do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was able to, through my education at the Middlebury Institute, was introduced to ArcGIS, was introduced to RStudio, RCommander, and also the different analysis types you could use. So GIS, how you could use that within programming to collect data and information about your programs. I was also introduced to social network analysis at the Institute that I really enjoyed. And they also have various courses on data analysis, advanced data analysis. They also had a modeling and forecasting class too, where you get, real in-depth regression models and the finer things of data analytics. But this is just kind of, scratching the surface of what's possible within the space of conflict transformation, conflict resolution, peace building. I'm currently working on a project. It's called the Irene database, indicator database. And we had to hire software engineers to build us the platform, because that's not something I could do. That's not something anyone at AFP can do, but someone that has that training in software engineering, in platform building, in coding. We needed someone to build us that platform, but also understand the content well enough so that the platform fits the context of the content. So whatever your skill is, I think there's always space for you in the field, because you don't realize how many small points there are to a project and how there's different people with different skill sets are drawn into that process to make that project possible. So from creation of the tools to an actual database to fundraising. So you need to have skill sets in how to put forward a proposal writing, to analysis skills, to policy skills. How would you put together a policy brief, or even just simple communication? Like, how are you going to talk about your product? How are you going to talk about your research? You need a comms specialist to break it down and disseminate it to all your different audiences. So no matter where you start, if you similar to me, if you really like the idea of being in the conflict resolution, transformation space, and peace building, your skill set will apply to the space, and it's just finding where the two kind of meet together. Being open to learning, being constantly curious about new ways of doing things, new things you could learn, is a massive skill, I would say, or an attitude that has helped me, which is why, looking back, I don't wish I joined with X amount of skills, because it's a constant learning process. You're not going to show up with 100% correct skills for any job. It's just not possible, because jobs change, your profile changes all the time too. So whatever you have, you start with, that's enough. You've done enough to get there. And then it's just a whole new phase of learning and growing from there on out. When I started in the field, I was very sure I was going to be an evaluation specialist, and that was it. And my role started there, and it's transformed to a researcher. And I never thought of myself as a researcher. In my head, a researcher is someone who's doing a PhD program, or who has doctor as part of their name, and that's a researcher. But that's not true. A researcher does research, and that's what I do. And that's opened a whole new avenue for me to see what different specializations there are within the researcher space, devoid of specifically monitoring, evaluation, learning specialists. Beyond that, as a researcher, what the different tracks are, what the different career prospects are. But I'm very happy where I am right now. And I'm excited to see what life has next in store for me.
Given your experiences and what you know now, what advice can you give to current students to best prepare themselves for entry points into this career field?
A couple things. One is to just be open to the different opportunities that show up and the different avenues that life could take you in. I said yes to almost everything that came my way in my first year. It was a very random mixed match of different portfolios, but I just said yes to everything. And once I said yes to everything, I realized like the researcher theme was picking up across these different opportunities. So if I had said no, thinking that that's not the right fit, that's not really what I really want to do, I wouldn't be here if I had said no at any point in that process. But every opportunity that I've had till date has been through networking. And with networking, you're able to put yourself out there, you're able to just have a realistic conversation with somebody else who's doing something you would like to be doing, and have a candid conversation with, what does that look like? That's something I would really be interested in doing. I have the skills to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think about that? Just an open conversation. That's literally how I got my first job in DC. Is I found somebody who does exactly what I wanted to do, and I literally spent 45 minutes telling them how I would just follow them around. If anything, I will just follow you around to do that. And that's how I kind of got my first opportunity. It was, of course, it was a big leap of faith that the person showed in me at that time. And so it started off as a 2-month contract as a consultant, and then we were able to kind of extend that to 6 months after we worked together and realized it was actually a good fit. So there are definitely people out there who, is always ready to help. When you find those people, hold them close, don't let go. There are also people that, just are very busy and aren't able to offer the same amount of help. So just because you've had one not so great interaction while networking doesn't mean the next one's not going to be, great. Just keep putting yourself out there, keep networking, and eventually you just find the right fit.
Can you talk a little bit about what academic background you think is most suited to a role like yours, including, advanced degrees? I'm also curious what the background of your colleagues are, like if they had the similar background as you.
Yeah, I had a colleague who worked for a very long time in sales
Hmm.
and then got a graduate degree similar to mine in international relations, policy, development, those kind of themes. And, we were colleagues on the same team. And then I have another colleague or my supervisor who was originally trained as an economist, especially in the development space, the development programs, and now we're on the same team doing evidence gathering and synthesis for peace building programs. And then I have another colleague who was an educator for a long time and even was the principal of his school, and made a career change. And she's now doing her PhD. She's finishing up her PhD, looking at how the education system overlaps with peace and conflict resolution. And we're on the same team. So there's so many different ways to get here, and that essentially is also life and how jobs work out. A door opens, a window opens, and before you know it, you really like something that you never thought you'd even be doing, and here you are. And so, just keep an open mind, say yes to opportunities that come your way, and keep networking.
Well, Shazia, thank you once again for your engagement with us in helping students to prepare for their first career destinations.
No, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here following this conversation. If there's any student, anybody who'd like to personally reach out and continue this conversation or have any specific questions they'd like to ask me, by all means, please feel free to do that. You can find me on LinkedIn, or I believe my email address is on AFB's website also. So please feel free to reach out, and I'm excited for what the future holds for you.
Great, thank you. So this concludes this episode within the series Exploring Careers in Conflict Transformation. In closing, I want to encourage viewers to tune in to get career perspectives and advice from a number of professionals in a broad variety of organizations in our other episodes in this series. I also want to encourage you to tune in to the other MIDDVantage series, which can be accessed through the Events and Programs tab on the CCI website. Thank you again for watching.